Namaste everyone. This is part 1 of the Mahabharata series to establish the date of the Mahabharata war in 3136 BCE. The aim of this series is to find out the year of the Kurukshetra war. The objective is to understand Bhishma's decision to wait for the arrival of Uttarayana despite his knowledge of time. What is the difference between the aim and the objective? The aim is a broader aim, the broader purpose, that is to know the date. But the objective is a specialized one because the question comes from where to start. When I say I have to research, I have to find out the date of the war, then from where I have to start? I have to have something to start with. That is the arrival of the Uttarayana, because that is very clearly stated in the Mahabharata that Bhishma left this world on Magha Shukla Ashtami. He waited for that. So that is the objective. So we start from that. So the research question is this: why did Bhishma, an adept in the calculation of time that he exhibited in deriving the exact duration of the Pandavas' exile, failed to know the date of the Uttarayana at the time of his fall, which caused him to wait for more than a month? He was such an expert in time, but he couldn't predict the arrival of the Uttarayana. Why? That is the research question. Once we pursue this question, we are able to get the answer. And the first thing that comes into our mind is the Ganesha moment. Because Ganesha, why he was made the scribe by Vyasa? He didn't say that he asked one of his students to be a Ganesha, but he called Lord Ganesha himself to come and write the book as he was dictating. Not only that, he told Ganesha that he should not write without comprehending anything, which means there will be some difficult passages in the Mahabharata which are difficult for Bhagavan Ganesha himself. And the comprehension, was it about the Shastra, that means the meaning of the sentences, or the Sanskrit meaning, or the Tatparya? So when we think about it, Shastra shows that Bhishma waited for more than a month. It's very clear. Whereas Tatparya, only if you know the Tatparya of what made him to wait, why he waited, then only you will know what is the exact meaning of that sentence or a verse. So comprehension is more about the Tatparya, which is difficult as far as Mahabharata is concerned. That is conveyed by the Ganesha moment. So the test is not for Ganesha, but for us indirectly. Vedavyasa have told us, beware, there are difficult to understand verses. And that is why I call that as Ganesha moment. As I was going through this text, there were many Ganesha moments, and I will be talking about them then and there. Ganesha as a scribe, unfortunately, has been taken out in the critical edition on the pretext that out of 59 manuscripts that they collected, 37 did not contain the Ganesha part at all. So they thought, that is, the people who made the critical edition of Mahabharata thought that Ganesha part was an interpolation. So the Ganesha was dropped in the critical edition, but without Ganesha's comprehension, Mahabharata cannot be understood. We have done a very great injustice to the future generations by just taking out the Ganesha part. Because here I'll give you an example, a simple example for why we need to have the Ganesha moment. The big criticism about Mahabharata is that there are different versions. But when you read the Mahabharata, you will come to know all these versions have been given by Vedavyasa himself. That is the 8,800 verses which I have highlighted here was for that Ganesha was a scribe. Whereas after that, Vedavyasa himself has given 24,000, then added 150 verses, then 30 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 14 lakhs. And finally, that 1 lakh verses were given to human beings through Vaishampayana. And it is also being told in the Mahabharata itself that as long as the players in that story were present in the world, Vyasa did not release the book. only after everybody had left the world. That is why even the Vaishampayana one was given during Janamejaya time, because his father Parikshit was part of Mahabharata. He was born during the war time, and he existed even after the war. So only after Parikshit had gone, and his son was so new to this, because he did not know the exact story of the Mahabharata. That is why he asked Vedavyasa. The writer himself was present in that. The writer himself is present in the story, and the Janamejaya asked him, what has happened? Why don't you tell us? And that is how Mahabharata was born. So you can see that almost all the verses that we have been given by Vyasa only. And in the Mahabharata itself, it has been told that during his period, see, you can imagine, after Yudhishthira's period, then Parikshit's period, such a long period, nearly a century, we can say. During that period, people had started reciting Mahabharata in different ways. Some had recited only the initial 8,800 verses. Some from that is Astika, Rishi Astika, and some of the portions of Mahabharata alone. So there would have come a tradition through them of reciting certain verses, and they have been retained. Whereas when he gave the Mahabharata through Vaishampayana to Janamejaya, he opted for only 1 lakh verses. So there must have been the other verses. So, for example, in the southern recension, there are 1,25,000 verses, which goes just against what Vaishambhayana has given. So it must be having more verses than what Vaishambhayana has given. From where they got it as interpolations? Never. They would have got from somewhere among the Rakshasas, the Yakshas, Gandharvas, or some other people who have already had it. So definitely there is no talk of interpolation. This you can only find out if you think for a moment like Ganesha. How is it possible? And another thing, all these versions were in the possession of religious leaders or mutts, not with individuals. So there is no need for them to mix up anything or interpolate anything. Something may have been lost while keeping it, while transcribing it. Some particular groups of verses may have been just lost. Only those that alone is possible. Otherwise, there is no scope for interpolation. And as such, all these verses that you have in different places of India are, are qualified as the primary sources of dating, primary source of evidence. And this is the Ganesha moment that we understand from this part one. With this, I am concluding this, and in the next part, we'll go to the next one. Thank you.